The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched far into the darkness above. Ancient crystals grew from the walls like frozen lightning, each one holding the memories of 1,000 years. Elder Valak stood at the center of the room, his forearms folded behind his back as he looked up at the massive stone tablet that dominated the far wall. The tablet was older than most civilizations. Cut from black stone that seemed to drink in light, it held only one line of text in the old galactic script. The words glowed with a soft blue light that never faded, never dimmed, never changed, never challenged humanity. Around Elder Valak's, representatives from dozens of younger species filled the floating seats that hung in the air like glowing bubbles. They had come here today because they had questions. The same questions that every new species asked when they joined the council. The same questions that made Elder Valak feel very, very old. Elder Valak, called out Representative Korth from the Andorian Republic. His voice echoed in the vast space. My people have been part of this council for 50 years now. We have followed your laws. We have kept the peace. But this law makes no sense to us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the floating seats. Elder Valak had expected this. It happened every few decades when enough new species joined the council. They all wanted to know why humans were special. They all thought the law was unfair. Humans are weak, continued Representative Korth. They have no natural weapons, no thick skin, no poison, no ability to survive in space without machines. They live on only one world and a few small colonies. Their technology is good but not amazing. Their ships are fast but not the fastest. Their weapons work but they are not the strongest. So why do we fear them? More voices joined in. Elder Valak listened to them all. The Crystalians complained that humans got the best trade routes. The Void Swimmers said humans were given too much respect in peace talks. The machine builders wanted to know why human space was marked as neutral territory that no one could attack. Elder Valak waited for the voices to quiet down. He had heard all of this before. He knew what they really wanted was a fight. They wanted to test themselves against the species that all the older races whispered about in dark corners. You want to know why we made this law? Elder Valak said finally. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the Great Hall. You think we are afraid of nothing. You think we made this rule to protect weak humans from strong species like yourselves. He turned to face the floating seats. His ancient eyes looked at each representative in turn. You are wrong. This law does not protect humans from you. This law protects you from humans. The hall fell silent. Elder Valak walked slowly to the stone tablet. He placed one of his 4 hands on the black surface. 500 years ago, the council was different. We were younger then, more foolish. We thought we knew everything about war and peace and power, and then we met humanity. Images began to form in the air above the tablet. They showed star maps and ship designs and battle plans. But Elder Valak was not looking at the images. He was remembering. First contact with humans went well. They seemed peaceful. They wanted to trade. They asked for nothing but a small corner of space to call their own. They offered us their music and art and stories. They seemed happy to be the smallest member of our galactic community. The images changed to show human colonies, small worlds with simple buildings, farms and schools and hospitals, nothing that looked dangerous. Some of us thought they were hiding something. The hegemony of Kreth was the strongest military power in those days. They demanded the right to inspect human space. They said humans might be building secret weapons. Elder Valak paused. Even after 5 centuries, this part was hard to tell. The humans said no. They said their space was their own, and they would defend it if necessary. The Kreth laughed. They said humans had nothing to defend with. They gave humans 1 day to surrender or face destruction. What happened? Asked Representative Korth. His voice was barely a whisper. The humans said they needed 3 days to consider the demand. The Kreth agreed. They thought it was a sign of human weakness. They used those 3 days to position their entire fleet around human space. Over 10,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The images now showed the Kreth fleet, massive ships with thick armor and powerful weapons. They surrounded human space like a metal wall. On the 3rd day, the humans gave their answer. A single word transmitted on all frequencies so that every ship in the galaxy could hear it. Elder Valak looked directly at Representative Korth. They said no. And then, the question came from a dozen voices at once. And then humanity showed us what they really were. The images changed again. Now they showed human ships appearing from nowhere. Ships that moved faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships that seemed to bend space around themselves. The Kreth had 10,000 ships. Humanity had 300. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it was over, the Kreth fleet was gone, not destroyed. Gone. Their ships had simply vanished as if they had never existed. The representative stared at the images in shock. Elder Valix continued his story. We tried to contact the Kreth homeworld. No answer. We sent scout ships to investigate. They found empty space where the Kreth home system used to be. No planets, no sun, no debris, nothing. The humans destroyed an entire star system. Representative Korth's voice shook. No, said Elder Valix. That would have been simple destruction. What the humans did was far more frightening. They made it so the Kreth had never existed at all. Every record of them vanished from our databases. Every piece of their technology stopped working. Every other species forgot they had ever heard of them. The hall was completely silent now. The floating seats had stopped moving. Even the ancient crystals seemed to dim their light. Only we elders remember, only because we were protected by the oldest magic of our people. We remember the Kreth so that we can remember the lesson they taught us. Elder Valix turned back to the stone tablet. The blue words seemed to glow brighter now. After the Kreth vanished, we called for an immediate meeting with humanity. We expected threats. We expected demands. We expected them to claim the Kreth territory and expand their empire. What did they want? Asked a small voice from the back of the hall. Nothing, said Elder Valix. They wanted nothing at all. They asked only that we leave them alone to live in peace. They said they were sorry the Kreth had forced them to respond, but they hoped it would not happen again. The elder's voice grew very quiet, and then they gave us a gift. A small crystal containing all of their military technology, all of their weapons, all of their secrets. They said if we ever needed to defend ourselves from a threat like the Kreth, we could use their knowledge. Representative Korth leaned forward in his floating seat. Did you use it? Did you learn their secrets? Elder Valix smiled sadly. We tried. Our greatest scientists worked for 100 years to understand even the simplest parts of human technology. They failed. The crystal shows us machines that should not be possible, weapons that work by rules we do not understand, ships that travel through dimensions we cannot even see. He gestured to the images still floating in the air. Everything you see here is the least of what humans can do. These are the simple tools they used because the Kreth were not worth bringing out anything stronger. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Elder Valix raised one hand for silence, so we made the law. Never challenge humanity, not because we fear them, but because we understand them. They are not like us. They do not want to rule. They do not want to conquer. They want only to be left alone to live their quiet lives. But if someone does challenge them, asked Representative Korth. Elder Valix looked at the young representative with eyes that had seen too much. Then they stopped being quiet. Far away on the industrial world of Kepler 442b, Daeho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the readings on his equipment. The terraforming array was working perfectly, just like it had every day for the past 3 years. Another successful day of turning rock into farmland, said Mira Park as she walked up to join him. Her datapad showed all green lights across the board. Simple work for simple people, agreed Taman Lee. He was calibrating the quantum resonance chambers that broke down stone into soil. At least that was what the official report said they did. Daeho smiled as he watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. It was peaceful here, quiet, just the way humans liked it. None of them mentioned the other readings on their equipment, the ones that did not appear in any official reports, the ones that measured things that had nothing to do with terraforming. After all, there was no need to talk about such things. Not when everything was so peaceful. War Commander Thextel stood on the bridge of his flagship and laughed. The sound echoed through the metal corridors of the massive ship like thunder. Around him, his officers tried to hide their smiles but failed. They had all heard the stories from the Galactic Council meeting. They had all heard about the ancient law that protected humans. Protect humans, Thextel said to his second-in-command. The elders want us to protect the weakest species in the galaxy. From what? From getting wet in the rain? Sub-Commander Drex nodded eagerly. He was young and hungry for battle. Like most of the new generation of Krethians, he had never seen real war. He wanted to prove himself against an enemy that would make him famous. The old stories make no sense, War Commander, Drex said. The elders claim our ancestors fought humans 500 years ago, but we have no records of this. No songs about great battles, no memorials to fallen warriors. How can we have fought a war that left no trace? Thextal walked to the great viewing window that showed the stars beyond. His reflection stared back at him. 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and natural armor plates across his chest and arms. His people were born for war. They were strong and fast and fearless. They had conquered 12 star systems in the past century without losing a single major battle. The elders are old and scared, he said. They have forgotten what it means to be strong. They see humans with their soft pink skin and weak bodies, and they imagine monsters in the shadows. Behind them, the bridge was busy with activity. Krethian officers worked at their stations, preparing for the largest military operation in their recent history. On the tactical display, thousands of red dots showed the positions of Krethian ships gathering at the edge of human space. Status report. Thextal commanded. All fleets are in position. War Commander, reported the navigation officer. 12,000 ships ready for battle. We have surrounded all major human colonies and trade routes. Their entire civilization is within our reach. Thextal felt a warm glow of satisfaction. This was how war should be fought. With overwhelming force and careful planning, the humans would surrender quickly when they saw the size of his fleet. There would be no real fighting, just a quick demonstration of Krethian superiority. Any response from human forces? He asked. Nothing, War Commander. Their defense ships are maintaining normal patrol patterns. They show no signs of alarm or preparation. It is as if they do not know we are here. Perfect. Thextal turned to address his entire bridge crew. Today we will show the galaxy the truth about human weakness. When this is over, no one will fear the ancient laws of frightened elders. Far away, Commander So-Young Choi sat in her office aboard the human defense station Deep Watch 7. The station orbited quietly at the edge of human space, one of dozens of similar installations that monitored the borders. To outside observers, it looked like a simple communication relay with minimal weapons and a small crew. So-Young was reading reports from her patrol ships when the first message arrived. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Kyung-Ho An, brought her the decoded transmission with a worried expression. Commander, we are receiving massive energy signatures all along the border. It looks like a major fleet buildup. So-Young took the data pad and studied the readings. Her face remained calm, but her eyes grew cold. How many ships? Our sensors show at least 10,000 contacts. Possibly more. The formation suggests Krethian design and tactics. Have they made any demands? Any attempts at communication? Yes, Commander. We received this message 30 minutes ago. Kyung-Ho handed her another data pad. So-Young read the message twice. It was short and simple. The Krethians demanded immediate surrender of all human territory. They gave humanity 24 hours to respond or face complete destruction. The message was signed by War Commander Thextal and broadcast on all public frequencies so that every species in the galaxy could hear it. They want an answer in 24 hours. So-Young said quietly, What should we tell them, Commander? So-Young was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her home on Earth where her parents still lived in the same small house where she grew up. She thought about the human colonies where families were raising their children in peace. She thought about the promise that humanity had made after the last time someone had threatened them. Send a reply, she said finally. Tell them we need 3 days to consider their demand. Kyung-Ho looked confused. 3 days, Commander? But they only gave us 1. Trust me, Lieutenant. They will agree to 3 days. On Earth, Dr. Jin-Woo Han was working late in his laboratory when the emergency message arrived. He was studying genetic samples from a newly discovered species when his assistant, Hye Jin-yoon, burst through the door. Dr. Han, you need to see this immediately. Jin-Woo looked up from his microscope. Hye-Jin was normally very calm and professional. He had never seen her this excited before. What is it? The Krethians. They are broadcasting propaganda across their entire empire. They are calling humans weak cowards who hide behind the protection of the elders. They are promising their people easy victory and rich new worlds to colonize. Jin-Woo felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had spent his career studying alien species, learning their strengths and weaknesses, their habits and their cultures. He knew the Krethians were proud warriors who valued honor and strength above all else. If they were making public promises of victory, they would not back down easily. Show me the broadcasts, he said. Hyjin activated the wall display and played the Krethian messages. Jin Woo watched in growing concern as War Commander Thextal spoke to crowds of cheering Krethian civilians. The War Commander promised them that humanity would fall within days. He said humans were too weak to fight and too cowardly to die with honor. "Have you analyzed their fleet composition?" Jin Woo asked. "Yes, Doctor. They have assembled the largest military force in known galactic history. Over 12,000 ships, including their newest battle cruisers. Our intelligence suggests they have been planning this operation for years." Jin Woo was quiet for a moment. Then he reached for his secure communicator and opened a channel to the Human Defense Council. "This is Dr. Jin Woo Han requesting immediate priority conference with all council members." "Dr. Han, this is General Park from Defense Command. We are already aware of the Krethian situation. All council members are being briefed. General, I have completed my analysis of Krethian psychology and military doctrine. They will not accept surrender even if we offer it. Their culture requires them to prove their strength through conquest. This is not a territorial dispute. This is a test of their honor." There was a long pause before General Park responded. "What is your recommendation, Doctor?" Jin Woo looked at the star charts on his wall. Each point of light represented a human world where people were living their quiet lives, unaware that everything was about to change. "They have made their choice, General. Now we must make ours." Back in space, War Commander Thextal was surprised when the human reply arrived. He had expected immediate surrender or desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, he received a simple message asking for 3 days to consider the Krethian demands. "They want more time," reported his communications officer. Thextal smiled. "Of course they do. They are trying to delay while they beg the elders for help. Very well. We will give them 3 days to understand how hopeless their situation is. Should we use the time to improve our positions, War Commander?" "No need, we already surround them completely. Let them use these 3 days to say goodbye to their families and prepare for surrender. It will make the conquest more honorable." Sub-Commander Drex approached with a concerned expression. "War Commander, some of our older officers are worried about the human request for extra time. They remember stories their grandparents told about human tricks and deceptions." Thextal waved away the concern. "Old fears from old warriors. Look at the tactical display, Drex. We have 12,000 ships. The humans have maybe 300 scattered across their entire territory. Even if every human ship was a superweapon, we would still outnumber them 40 to 1. But War Commander, what if the elder stories are true? What if humans are hiding their real strength?" Thextal turned to face his second-in-command. His voice grew cold and dangerous. "Are you questioning my judgment, Sub-Commander?" Drex quickly shook his head. "No, War Commander. I follow your orders without question." "Good. Because in 3 days we will show the galaxy that the age of elder superstitions is over. We will prove that strength conquers fear, and that warriors defeat cowards." Around the bridge, the Krethian officers nodded their agreement. They trusted their War Commander completely. They believed in their superior numbers and advanced weapons. They were sure that victory would be easy and glorious. None of them noticed the small changes that began appearing on their sensor displays. Tiny fluctuations in space that could have been solar wind or cosmic radiation. Brief energy signatures that might have been equipment malfunctions or background noise. The humans had asked for 3 days. The Krethians had agreed to wait 3 days. Neither side mentioned that they would be using those 3 days very differently. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, Dae-ho Kim received a message on his private communicator. He read it twice, then quietly deleted it. The first alarm went off at exactly 600 hours on New Busan Colony. Colony Administrator Woo Jin Nam was drinking his morning coffee when the red lights began flashing in his office. He set down his cup carefully and activated his communication system. "This is Administrator Nam. Report. Sir, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Krethian warships. At least 200 vessels surrounding the colony." Woo Jin felt his blood turn cold. New Busan was a peaceful agricultural world with 50,000 residents. Most of them were farmers and their families. They had a small defense force with outdated equipment, but nothing that could stand against a real military attack. "How long until they reach weapons range?" he asked. "They are already in weapons range, sir. They are just sitting there, waiting." Woo Jin activated the colony-wide communication system. His voice carried to every home and workplace on New Busan. "This is Administrator Nam. We are under threat of attack. All civilians are to report immediately to the emergency shelters. This is not a drill. Across the colony, people dropped what they were doing and ran. Parents grabbed their children. Teachers led their students to the underground bunkers. Shop owners locked their doors and hurried to safety. They had practiced this many times, but no one had ever thought it would really happen. Captain Min-ho Kang of the Colonial Defense Force watched the Krathian ships on his tactical display. He commanded 12 patrol boats and 1 small frigate. His total firepower could barely scratch the paint on a single Krathian battleship. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Krathian fleet," reported his communications officer. "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen belonged to a young Krathian officer with bright eyes and eager expression. "I am Sub-Commander Drex of the Krathian hegemony. You will surrender immediately or we will destroy your colony." Min-ho looked at the young alien warrior. "This is Captain Kang. We are a peaceful agricultural colony. We have no military value. Why are you attacking us?" "Because you are human," Drex said simply. "That is reason enough." The transmission ended. Min-ho stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his crew. "All ships prepare for battle. We will buy as much time as we can for the evacuation." "Sir," said his weapons officer quietly, "we cannot win this fight." "I know," Min-ho replied, "but we can make them work for it." The first Krathian missiles struck the colony's outer defenses at 6:30 hours. The defense stations exploded in bright flashes of light. Min-ho's small fleet moved to intercept the attacking ships, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. The colonial frigate lasted 3 minutes against the Krathian battleships. The patrol boats were destroyed even faster. Min-ho ejected in an escape pod just as his command ship exploded around him. As he drifted in space, he watched the Krathian fleet move toward the colony. Sub-Commander Drex felt a surge of excitement as his ships destroyed the human defense force. It had been easier than target practice. Now came the real prize. The colony itself lay spread out below them like a gift waiting to be opened. "Begin bombardment of civilian targets," he ordered. "Focus on the population centers first." "Sir," said his weapons officer hesitantly, "should we not demand surrender first?" "Give the civilians a chance to evacuate?" Drex turned to stare at his subordinate. "These are humans. War Commander Thextal wants them to suffer before they die. It will send a message to the rest of their pathetic species." The Krathian ships opened fire on New Busan colony. Schools and hospitals exploded. Farms burned. The emergency shelters, built to protect against storms and accidents, crumbled under military-grade weapons. In his underground command bunker, Wu Jin Nam watched his colony die on the security monitors. The Krathians were not trying to capture anything. They were not demanding surrender. They were simply destroying everything they could find. "Sir," said his aide, "we are receiving an emergency transmission from Earth. Priority Alpha." Wu Jin activated the secure channel. The face of Admiral Yoonji Song appeared on his screen. She was the head of Earth's Deep Space Command, and she looked very serious. "Administrator Nam, what is your status?" "The colony is under attack. We estimate 60% casualties already. The Krathians are targeting civilians deliberately." Admiral Song's face grew very cold. "Understood. We are implementing immediate response protocols. Hold position and take whatever cover you can find. Admiral, they have over 200 ships. Our defense force is gone. There is nothing left to hold position with." "Administrator Nam," the Admiral said quietly, "help is coming." The transmission ended. Wu Jin stared at the blank screen and wondered what help could possibly arrive in time. The nearest human military base was 3 days away, even at maximum speed. Far away in the ancient crystal halls of the Galactic Council, Elder Valix received an urgent message from his monitoring stations. He read the report 3 times before calling for an emergency session. Within an hour, representatives from every major species had gathered in the Great Hall. They sat in their floating chairs and waited nervously as Elder Valix approached the speaking platform. "The Krathians have attacked," he announced. "They are bombarding a human civilian colony as we speak." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Representative Korth from the Androian Republic stood up in his chair. "Surely this is a mistake. No one would be foolish enough to attack humans directly." "There is no mistake," Elder Valix replied. "Our sensors show Krathian ships destroying civilian targets on New Busan colony. They have ignored all surrender offers. They are committing deliberate genocide." A representative from the Crystalline Consortium raised one of her 6 arms. Can we stop them? Can we send Council forces to intervene? Elder Valix looked at her with ancient, sad eyes. It is too late for intervention. The attack has already begun. We can only wait and see what humanity's response will be, but surely humans will ask for our help, protested Representative Korth. They must know they cannot fight the entire Crethean fleet alone. Humans have not asked for help, Elder Valix said quietly. They have not asked for anything at all. In the silence that followed, every representative in the hall remembered the ancient law carved in black stone. The law that they had all questioned. The law that they had all thought was foolish. Never challenge humanity. On Earth, Admiral Yunji Song walked quickly through the corridors of Deep Space Command headquarters. Officers and technicians stepped aside as she passed. They could see the determination in her eyes and the anger in her stride. She entered the main command center where dozens of screens showed tactical displays from across human space. General Taeho Park, the head of Human Defense Forces, was waiting for her with a grim expression. Admiral, we have confirmed reports from New Busan. The Cretheans are conducting systematic extermination of civilian populations. Current casualty estimates are over 30,000 dead. Admiral Song stopped walking. For a moment she was completely still. When she spoke, her voice was so quiet that everyone in the command center had to strain to hear her. General Park, please confirm that we have exhausted all diplomatic options. Confirmed, Admiral. The Cretheans refused all communication attempts. They rejected our offer of complete surrender. They are killing civilians for no strategic purpose. Admiral Song nodded slowly. She walked to the central command console and placed her hand on a small red panel. The panel scanned her palm print and retinal pattern. A soft voice spoke from hidden speakers. Identity confirmed. Admiral Eunji Song, Deep Space Command. Please state authorization code. 77 Alpha, the Admiral said clearly. Every person in the command center stopped what they were doing. Some of them had heard rumors about Protocol 77 Alpha. Most of them had thought it was just a story. Authorization confirmed, the computer replied. Protocol 77 Alpha is now active. All human space installations are receiving activation codes. Estimated time to full deployment, 72 hours. General Park approached the Admiral carefully. Ma'am, are you certain about this? Once we activate 77 Alpha, there is no going back. Admiral Song turned to look at the tactical display showing New Busan Colony. Red indicators marked the locations where Crethean ships were still firing on civilian targets. As she watched, another red dot appeared. Another 1,000 people dead. General, how many times in human history have we activated this protocol?
Never, ma'am.
This is the first time. And how many times have we been attacked by an outside military force? Also never, ma'am. The Cretheans are the first species to attack human civilians since we joined the galactic community. Admiral Song nodded. Then they will also be the last. She walked to the main communication console and opened a channel to every human military installation in the galaxy. Her voice carried to ships, stations, colonies, and hidden bases that most people did not even know existed. This is Admiral Song. Protocol 77 Alpha is now active. All units are to begin immediate deployment. We have 72 hours to complete preparations. After that, there will be no more Crethean hegemony. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, Daeho Kim heard the Admiral's message through his secure communicator. He looked up at the evening sky where stars were beginning to appear in the growing darkness. Mira Park and Taimin Lee joined him outside their equipment facility. All around them, the terraforming machines. Dr. Jia Kyung Lim had not slept for 36 hours. She stood in the command center of Earth's Strategic Planning Division, surrounded by holographic displays that showed the entire galaxy. Each point of light represented a human installation. Each installation was now revealing its true purpose. Status report, she said to her team of analysts. Lieutenant Colonel Bora Kim looked up from her console. Activation is proceeding ahead of schedule. We have achieved 87% deployment across all sectors. What about the remote installations? Dr. Lim asked. All agricultural worlds have completed their transformation sequences. Industrial facilities are at 95%. Even our deep space monitoring stations are online. Dr. Lim nodded with satisfaction. For over a century, humanity had been building what appeared to be a peaceful civilization. Farms that fed growing populations, factories that built useful machines, research stations that studied the stars. To every outside observer, humans looked like exactly what they claimed to be, a quiet species that wanted only to live in peace. The truth was far more complex. Technical specialist Su Bin Oh approached with a data tablet in her hands. She was young for such an important position, but she understood human technology better than anyone else alive. Dr. Lim, we have a problem with the Kepler 442b installation. The quantum resonance array is not responding to activation commands. Dr. Lim frowned. Kepler 442b was one of their most important facilities. If it failed to activate, they would lose coverage for an entire sector of space. What is Engineer Kim's status? She asked. He reports that all systems appear normal, but the main array will not come online. He requests permission to attempt manual activation. Dr. Lim thought for a moment. Manual activation was dangerous. If something went wrong, they could lose the entire installation and everyone in it. Tell Engineer Kim that permission is granted, but remind him that we need that array operational in 36 hours or the entire plan fails. On Kepler 442b, Daeho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the maintenance tunnels beneath what everyone thought was a terraforming facility. The tunnels led to chambers that did not appear on any official blueprints. Chambers filled with machinery that most humans had never seen. Mira Park's voice crackled through his communicator. Daeho, I am reading massive energy buildup in the quantum cores. You need to get out of there. Not yet, Daeho replied. I can see the problem. Someone installed the wrong type of crystal in the primary resonance chamber. I need to replace it manually. That is too dangerous. If the quantum field destabilizes while you are in there, it will tear you apart at the molecular level. Daeho smiled grimly as he reached the chamber entrance. Through the thick, transparent wall, he could see the quantum resonance array. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Streams of pure energy danced between crystal formations that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Mira, how many people live in this sector of space? Approximately 12 million humans across 14 colonies and 47 installations. And how many of them will die if the Crethians reach them before we can stop the invasion? Mira was quiet for a moment. All of them. Then I guess I better not make any mistakes. Daeho opened the chamber and stepped inside. The quantum field immediately began affecting his body. His vision blurred as his eyes tried to process light that came from dimensions that did not normally exist. His skin tingled as energy particles passed through him like he was made of air. He found the crystal that was causing the malfunction. It was the wrong size by less than a millimeter. But in quantum mechanics, a millimeter might as well be 1,000,000 kilometers. He carefully removed the defective crystal and installed the correct replacement. The entire array came to life with a sound like music played on instruments made of starlight. Daeho felt the quantum field stabilize around him. He could sense the array connecting to other installations across the galaxy, forming a network that spanned impossible distances. System online, he reported as he stumbled out of the chamber. Kepler 442b is ready for deployment. Tae-Min Lee helped him to a chair and handed him a medical scanner. Your quantum exposure is within acceptable limits, but barely. You need to rest. No time to rest, Daeho replied. We still have 34 hours of work ahead of us. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on thousands of human worlds. Farmers were opening hidden compartments in their barns to reveal weapons that could destroy starships. Factory workers were reconfiguring their production lines to build ammunition instead of consumer goods. Even school children were helping their teachers prepare equipment that their textbooks claimed was used for science experiments. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood on the bridge of what appeared to be a simple cargo transport. The ship was called Peaceful Journey, and its official cargo manifest listed agricultural supplies and medical equipment. To any external scan, it looked exactly like what it claimed to be. A harmless civilian vessel. The reality was very different. Captain, we have received activation codes from Strategic Command, reported his navigation officer. We are cleared for combat deployment. Captain Park nodded. Begin transformation sequence. Bring all weapons online. Around him, the bridge began to change. Panels slid aside to reveal military-grade sensor arrays. The ceiling opened to expose targeting computers that could track 1,000 enemy ships simultaneously. Even the chairs transformed, extending protective armor and connecting directly to the ship's neural interface systems. The transformation took exactly 12 minutes. When it was complete, Peaceful Journey had become one of the most dangerous warships in the galaxy. Its cargo hold now contained enough firepower to level a continent. Its engines could push it faster than any known ship design. Most importantly, its quantum communication array could coordinate with every other human vessel in real time, regardless of distance. Status report, Captain Park ordered. All systems optimal, Captain. Weapons are at full charge. Quantum drive is ready for combat deployment. We are receiving coordination signals from 1,047 other vessels in our task force. Captain Park smiled coldly. The Creathians thought they were fighting 300 scattered human ships. They had no idea that humanity had been building a hidden fleet for over a century. Ships disguised as cargo haulers and passenger transports. Ships that looked civilian but carried enough weapons to fight entire enemy fleets. Navigation, set course for the Kreth home system. Maximum speed. Sir, that will take us directly through their main battle fleet. I know. Send a message to all ships in our task force. Tell them it is time to introduce ourselves to our new Creathian friends. On the Creathian flagship, War Commander Thextal was celebrating his easy victory at New Busan when the first reports began arriving. His communications officer approached with a confused expression. War Commander, we are receiving strange sensor readings from human space. What kind of readings? Energy signatures that do not match any known human technology. Our sensors show massive power buildups at locations that should contain only civilian installations. Thextal frowned. Show me. The main tactical display activated to show human territory. Thousands of small dots marked human colonies and space stations. As Thextal watched, the dots began changing color from green to red. What does the red color indicate? He asked. Military-grade energy signatures, War Commander. Weapon systems coming online. The readings are unprecedented. Sub-Commander Drex joined them at the tactical display. Perhaps the humans are trying to bluff us. They may be powering up mining equipment or industrial machinery to make it look like weapons. That is possible, Thextal agreed. What is our current fleet status? All 12,000 ships are in position around human space. We have them completely surrounded. They have nowhere to run. Good. Order all ships to begin moving toward human colonies. We will crush any resistance before it can organize. What War Commander Thextal did not know was that humanity had never intended to run. For over a century, human engineers had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Every colony was a fortress. Every space station was a weapons platform. Every seemingly harmless installation was part of the largest distributed weapon system ever created. The Creathians had surrounded human space with 12,000 ships. What they had actually done was surround themselves with over 50,000 hidden human weapons. Communications. Director Yuna Zhang sat in the Quantum Communications Center beneath the Swiss Alps on Earth. Around her, technicians monitored transmission channels that connected every human installation in the galaxy. The quantum entanglement networks allowed instantaneous communication across impossible distances. Director Zhang, we have confirmation from all sectors, reported her chief technician. The network is at full operational capacity. What is our coverage percentage? 100%, Director. Every human installation is connected. We can coordinate simultaneous action across the entire galaxy with zero transmission delay. Yuna felt a surge of pride. The quantum communication network had taken 80 years to build. It was humanity's greatest technological achievement, and almost no one knew it existed. To outside observers, humans use the same slower-than-light communication methods as every other species. Begin final synchronization sequence, she ordered. The transformation began at exactly 0000 hours Galactic Standard Time. Across human space, installations that had appeared peaceful for decades suddenly revealed their true nature. What the galaxy thought it knew about humanity was about to change forever. Fleet Admiral Donghyun Seo stood in the command center of what everyone believed was Earth's agricultural research station. The facility orbited peacefully above the planet's fertile farmlands, conducting experiments on crop genetics and soil improvement. At least that was what the official records claimed. Admiral, all systems are showing green, reported his tactical officer. Operation Quiet Thunder is ready to commence. Admiral Seo looked at the massive display screen that dominated the command center. It showed the positions of every Creathian ship in the galaxy. 12,000 red dots surrounded human space like a noose. The Creathians thought they had humanity trapped. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Communications. Open a channel to all human forces, Admiral CO ordered. Channel open. Sir, this is Admiral CO to all human forces. You have authorization to begin Operation Quiet Thunder. Show them what we really are. Around the galaxy, thousands of human installations received the Admiral's message. What happened next would be remembered for centuries as the moment when humanity stopped pretending to be weak. On the farming world of New Terra, what appeared to be a simple grain silo began to split open like a flower. Inside, a massive railgun rose into view. The weapon was 3 kilometers long and capable of firing projectiles at near light speed. Around it, dozens of similar silos opened to reveal artillery that could destroy entire fleets. Farmer Young Ho An, who had spent 30 years growing corn and wheat, now sat at a targeting computer that could track enemy ships across multiple star systems. He had never stopped being a farmer. He had just been farming something more dangerous than vegetables. Target acquired, he reported to his team. Krethian battleship bearing 27 Mark IV. Range 6 light minutes. Confirmed target, replied his weapons coordinator. You are cleared to fire. Young-ho pressed the firing button. The railgun sent a tungsten projectile screaming through space at incredible speed. 6 minutes later, a Krethian battleship simply ceased to exist. The Krethians on nearby ships watched in shock as their companion vessel was destroyed by a weapon they could not even see. Their sensors showed the projectile had come from what their intelligence reports claimed was a simple farming planet. Impossible, whispered Sub-Commander Drex as he watched the tactical display. How can farmers destroy a battleship? He was about to find out that humans had redefined what it meant to be a farmer. Strategic analyst Chang Min Bei was monitoring Krethian communications when the first reports of the attack reached their fleet commanders. He listened to their confused voices with growing satisfaction. The Krethians are reporting multiple ship losses, he announced to his team. They cannot identify the source of the attacks. Their sensors show weapons fire coming from civilian installations. How are they responding? Asked Commander So Young Choi, with confusion and panic. They are demanding explanations from their intelligence officers. They want to know how human farms can destroy their warships. Commander Choi smiled coldly. Signal all defense stations. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Quiet Thunder. What the Krethians did not know was that Phase 1 had only been a demonstration. Phase 2 would show them the true scope of human preparation. Communications. Director Yuna Zhang activated the galaxy-wide human communication network. Her voice reached every human installation simultaneously, regardless of distance. All stations, this is command. Begin quantum displacement protocol. Show them what human technology can really do. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, Daeho Kim watched as his terraforming equipment completed its final transformation. The machines that had spent years turning rock into soil now revealed their true purpose. They were not terraforming devices. They were quantum manipulation, engines, quantum field generators online, reported Mira. Park. We have achieved stable space-time distortion. Target the Krethian. Fleet in Sector 7, ordered Tae-Min Lee. Let them experience what it feels like to have reality rewritten around them. The quantum generators created a field of distorted space-time that reached out to touch the Krethian ships. When the field made contact, the enemy vessels began to experience something that their science said was impossible. Time itself started moving differently for the Krethian crews. Their weapons fired in slow motion. Their communications arrived minutes after they were sent. Their engines pushed them through space that bent and twisted like water. War Commander Thextal felt his stomach turn as gravity shifted around his flagship. The floor became the ceiling, then became the floor again. His crew stumbled and fell as up and down lost all meaning. What is happening to us? He demanded. Unknown, War Commander, replied his science officer. Our instruments show that local space-time is being artificially manipulated. The humans appear to have technology that can alter the fundamental structure of reality. Thextal stared at his officer in disbelief. That is impossible. No species in the galaxy has that kind of technology. With respect, War Commander, we are experiencing it right now. Navigation specialist Erin Ko was tracking Krethian fleet movements from her hidden asteroid base when she noticed something strange. The enemy ships were trying to retreat, but they were not moving in the directions they intended. Base Commander, the Krethians are attempting to withdraw from human space, she reported, but their navigation systems appear to be malfunctioning. That is not a malfunction, replied the base commander with a smile. That is human technology. What Aaron was seeing was the result of decades of careful preparation. Human scientists had placed quantum beacons throughout the galaxy. The beacons looked like simple navigation aids, but they were actually components in a massive space-time manipulation network. By activating the beacons, humans could make hyperspace itself work differently. Ships trying to escape would find themselves traveling in circles. Vessels attempting to call for reinforcements would discover that their messages were being sent to empty space. The Krethians were not just surrounded by human weapons. They were trapped in a maze of twisted spacetime that made escape impossible. Technical specialist Subin O monitored the quantum network from her control station on Earth. Her screen showed the status of over 50,000 hidden human installations across the galaxy. Each installation was now revealing capabilities that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about human technology. Dr. Lim, we have achieved complete network synchronization, she reported. All installations are operating in perfect coordination. Dr. Jokyung Lim nodded with satisfaction. The network had been her life's work. For over 60 years, she had helped design and build the most complex technological system in galactic history, a system so advanced that even most humans did not understand how it worked. What is our current tactical advantage? She asked. Complete information superiority. We know the exact position and status of every Krethian ship. We can predict their movements before they make them. We can intercept their communications before they send them. And their knowledge of our capabilities? Effectively zero. They still believe they are fighting simple farmers and traders. Dr. Lim looked at the tactical display showing the galaxy-wide battle. Red dots representing Krethian ships were disappearing at an increasing rate. Not because they were being destroyed, but because they were being neutralized in ways that left them completely helpless. Begin Phase 3, she ordered. Time to show them what human mercy looks like. Captain Hyunwoo Park commanded his transformed vessel as it approached the main Krethian fleet. His ship still looked like a harmless cargo transport, but appearances could be very deceiving when humans were involved. Captain, we are within weapons range of the enemy fleet, reported his tactical officer. Do not fire yet, Captain Park ordered. Open a communication channel to the Krethian flagship. Sir, they are not responding to our hails. They will respond to this. Captain Park activated his ship's true identity beacon. The signal that reached the Krethian flagship identified his vessel as HSS Retribution, one of humanity's most advanced warships. The signal also included detailed specifications of the ship's weapon systems. War Commander Thextal stared at his communication screen in shock. The harmless cargo ship that had been following his fleet was actually a warship that could destroy his entire fleet single-handedly. How many ships like this do the humans have? He asked his intelligence officer. We do not know, War Commander. Our intelligence reports show only civilian vessels in human space. Then our intelligence reports are wrong, Thextal said quietly. Very, very wrong. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were taking place as human ships revealed their true nature. Cargo haulers became battleships. Passenger transports became aircraft carriers. Even small personal yachts turned out to be carrying weapons that could level cities. The Krethians had thought they were attacking a peaceful species with minimal defenses. Instead, they had challenged the most heavily armed civilization in galactic history. Tactical coordinator Bitna Chung was analyzing enemy fleet positions when she noticed something interesting. The Krethian hegemony had ruled their corner of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their empire stretched across 47 star systems and included billions of proud warriors. They had never known defeat. They had never known fear. They had never imagined that everything they were could simply stop existing. It took exactly 72 hours from the start of Operation Quiet Thunder to the complete collapse of Krethian military power. Not through destruction, but through something far more thorough. Humanity had not just defeated them. Humanity had made it impossible for them to ever fight again. War Commander Thextal sat in what remained of his command center and tried to understand what had happened to his fleet. His 12,000 ships were still intact. His crews were still alive. His weapons still functioned. But none of it mattered anymore. Every time his gunners tried to target a human vessel, their computers refused to obey. The targeting systems would lock onto empty space or friendly ships or random asteroids. Anything except the humans they were supposed to destroy. Status report, he said weakly. Sub-Commander Drex approached with a tablet full of impossible readings. War Commander, our entire fleet has been changed. Our weapons will not fire on human targets. Our navigation systems refuse to plot courses toward human space. Even our communication arrays will not transmit messages that contain threats against humanity. That is impossible. Our technology cannot be controlled by outside forces. With respect, War Commander, it appears that it can. What Thextal did not understand was that human technology worked on principles that the Crethians had never discovered. While most species built machines that followed orders, humans had learned to build machines that could think and choose and refuse. Chief Engineer Sang-Hoon Kim was monitoring the civilization reset protocol from his control station on Luna. Around him, quantum computers processed information at speeds that approached the theoretical limits of physics. The computers were not just calculating, they were rewriting reality itself. Dr. Lim, the reset protocol is proceeding exactly as planned, he reported. We have achieved complete penetration of Crethian technology networks. Dr. Ja Kyung Lim studied the readouts with satisfaction. What percentage of their systems have been modified? 100%. Every Crethian device more complex than a simple tool has been upgraded with new ethical programming. Their weapons cannot target civilians. Their ships cannot attack peaceful vessels. Their factories cannot produce instruments of aggressive war. And the Crethians themselves? Unharmed. We have not altered their biology or their minds. We have simply made it impossible for them to use technology for aggressive purposes. This was the true genius of the reset protocol. It did not destroy the Crethian people or their culture. It simply removed their ability to threaten others. Every piece of Crethian technology now contained hidden programming that would refuse to harm innocent beings. Security Chief Hei-Wan Lee was analyzing data from across the former Crethian Empire when she made a disturbing discovery. Hidden files showed that the Crethians had been planning something far worse than a simple invasion. Admiral Seo, you need to see this immediately, she said as she entered his command center. Fleet Admiral Dong-Hyun Seo looked up from his tactical displays. What have you found, Chief? Crethian intelligence files recovered from their central command network. They were not just planning to conquer human space. They were planning to enslave or exterminate every non-Crethian species in the galaxy. Admiral Seo felt his blood turn cold as he read the files. The Crethians had detailed plans for attacking the Elders, the Crystalline Consortium, the Androian Republic, and dozens of other peaceful civilizations. Humanity had just been their first target. How close were they to implementing these plans? According to their timeline, they would have begun the general galactic conquest within 6 months of defeating humanity. Admiral Seo realized that humanity had not just saved themselves. They had saved the entire galaxy from a threat that most species did not even know existed. Prepare a full report for transmission to the Galactic Council, he ordered. They need to know what the Crethians were really planning. Elder Valix received Admiral Seo's report while sitting in his private chambers on the Elder homeworld. He read the documents 3 times before calling for an emergency council session. When the representatives gathered in the Great Hall, they could see the ancient fear in his eyes. Fellow beings, Elder Valix began, we have just learned the true scope of the Crethian threat. They were not simply attacking humanity. They were preparing to destroy our entire galactic civilization. The hall erupted in shocked voices as Elder Valix shared the captured Crethian plans. Representatives who had questioned the wisdom of the ancient law now understood why it existed. The humans have not just defended themselves, Elder Valix continued. They have saved us all from a darkness we did not even see coming. Representative Korth from the Androian Republic stood slowly in his floating chair. Elder Valix, what has become of the Crethian fleet? They still exist, but they are no longer a threat to anyone. The humans have used technology we do not understand to ensure that Crethian weapons can never again be turned against peaceful beings. The humans destroyed their ability to make war? No, Elder Valix said quietly. That would have been simple destruction. What the humans did was far more sophisticated. They have given the Crethians a choice. They can continue to exist and prosper, but only if they choose to live in peace. Diplomatic envoy Young Soo-han stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council and delivered humanity's official statement on the Crethian situation. His words would be remembered and quoted for centuries to come. Honored representatives, he began. Humanity has never wanted to be the guardians of galactic peace. We have preferred to live quietly and let others handle the great affairs of civilizations, but sometimes choice is taken away from us. He gestured to the holographic display showing the captured Krethian war plans. The Krethian hegemony chose to threaten not just humanity, but every peaceful species in the galaxy. They forced us to respond. What is humanity's intention toward the Krethian people? Asked Elder Valix. We intend to help them rebuild their civilization on a foundation of peace rather than conquest. Their technology has been modified to prevent aggressive actions, but they retain the ability to defend themselves and to prosper through peaceful means. And if they refuse to accept this new reality, Youngsu's expression grew very serious, then they will discover that what we have done so far was our attempt at mercy. We would prefer not to show them what our justice looks like. The council chamber fell silent. Every representative understood that humanity had just offered the Krethians something precious, a second chance. But they had also made it clear that there would not be a third chance. Tactical Coordinator Bitna Chung was processing final casualty reports when she realized something remarkable. Despite the complete collapse of Krethian military power, the actual loss of life had been minimal. Dr. Lim, the final casualty figures are in, she reported. Total Krethian military deaths 1,847. Total civilian casualties 0. Dr. Jakyung Lim smiled with satisfaction. And our casualties? 34 wounded, no deaths. Most injuries were from equipment malfunctions during the rapid deployment phase. This was perhaps the most impressive aspect of Operation Quiet Thunder. Humanity had defeated the largest military force in galactic history while barely firing a shot. They had won through superior technology, careful planning, and the application of force so precise that it could disable an enemy without destroying them. War Commander Thextal, who no longer held any real command, was brought before a tribunal of his own people. The Krethian Council of War Chiefs had gathered to determine his fate. But they found themselves in the strange position of judging a leader who had led them into a defeat unlike anything in their history. Thextal, said Chief Elder Krex, you have brought shame upon our entire species. Your arrogance has cost us our empire and our military power. I followed the traditions of our people, Thextal replied. I sought to expand our territory and prove our strength. How could I have known that the humans were so powerful? The elders warned us. The ancient laws forbade challenging humanity. You ignored wisdom that had kept the galaxy safe for 5 centuries. Thextal had no answer. He had believed that the old warnings were just superstition. He had thought that Krethian strength was enough to overcome any enemy. He had been wrong about everything. What is our sentence? He asked. You will spend the rest of your life helping to rebuild what you have destroyed. You will work with human advisors to establish a new Krethian government, based on peace rather than conquest. You will ensure that no future Krethian leader makes the same mistakes you made. It was a sentence that fit perfectly with humanity's approach to justice. Not destruction, but rehabilitation. Not revenge, but redemption. Cultural advisor Ye-Jin Bei was working with former Krethian military leaders to help them understand their new reality. Her job was to teach them that strength could be used for protection rather than conquest. Commander Drex, she said to the young Krethian officer, your people are not weak now. You are simply no longer able to use your strength to harm others. 1 year after the end of the Krethian War, the galaxy had settled into a new kind of peace. It was deeper and more secure than anything most species could remember. The threat that had been building in secret for decades was gone, and in its place was something unprecedented. A galaxy where aggressive war had become literally impossible for its former greatest military power. Ambassador Ji-Un Moon walked through the halls of the rebuilt Krethian capital on their homeworld. The city looked much the same as it had before the war, but everything felt different. Where once there had been statues celebrating military conquest, now there were gardens honoring peaceful cooperation. Where military parades had once marched, now there were festivals celebrating art and science. She was meeting with Thex, the former war commander who now served as the head of Krethian Reconstruction. He had dropped his military title permanently, saying that it belonged to a different person who no longer existed. Ambassador Moon, Thex said as he welcomed her into his office. Thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss the latest trade agreements between our peoples. Jian smiled as she took her seat. The conversation itself was remarkable. A year ago, this same Krethian had been planning humanity's destruction. Now he was negotiating fair prices for agricultural exports. Your people have adapted well to their new circumstances, she observed. We had no choice, Thex replied honestly. But I have come to understand that choice was always an illusion. We thought we were choosing strength when we chose conquest. In reality, we were choosing weakness. How so? A strong species protects others. A weak species preys on others. We spent 3,000 years believing we were strong, when we were actually the weakest species in the galaxy. This was the kind of transformation that made human advisors proud of their work. Not just a change in behavior, but a fundamental shift in understanding. Philosopher Inho Nam was putting the finishing touches on his book about the war when he received a visit from Elder Valix. The ancient being had traveled from the Council homeworld specifically to discuss Inho's work. Dr. Nam, Elder Valix said as he settled his forearms comfortably in the human-designed chair, I have read the advanced copies of your book. It is enlightening. Thank you. Elder Valix, I tried to explain. The human perspective on conflict resolution. Your central thesis is that humans prepared for war so extensively because they never wanted to use their preparations. Exactly. Every human weapon, every hidden installation, every secret technology was built with the hope that it would never be needed. We prepared for the worst possible scenario so that we could prevent it from ever happening. Elder Valix was quiet for a long moment. This concept is difficult for many species to understand. Most beings prepare for war because they expect to fight. You prepared for war because you expected to avoid it. Prevention is always preferable to cure, Inho said simply. It is better to be so well prepared that no one dares to attack you than to be so unprepared that everyone wants to try. And now? Now that you have demonstrated your capabilities? Now we hope that the demonstration was enough. We would prefer never to show anyone what else we can do. Elder Valix understood the implication. What humanity had revealed during the Krethian War was just the beginning of their true capabilities. There were weapons and technologies that remained hidden, waiting in case someone else decided to test human resolve. Cultural advisor Yijin Bei was working with a group of young Krethians who had been born after the war. Her job was to help them understand their people's history and their place in the new galactic order. Teacher Bei asked a young Krethian named Vex, why did the humans not simply destroy us? It would have been easier than changing all our technology. What do you think the answer is, Vex? The young Krethian thought carefully. Because destruction would have made them like the old us? Very good. Destruction is easy. Creation is hard. The humans chose the hard path because it was the right path. But they could have destroyed us if they wanted to? Yijin's expression grew serious. Vex, your people attacked human civilians. You killed children and families who had done nothing wrong. By the laws of most species, humanity would have been justified in wiping out your entire civilization. But they did not. No, they did not. They chose to give you a chance to become something better. That is what mercy looks like when it comes from a position of absolute strength. The young Krethians nodded solemnly. They were growing up in a galaxy where their people were no longer feared. But they were respected for the choices they were making. Fleet Admiral Donghyun Seo was reviewing reports in his office when his aide brought him a message that made him smile. It was from the former Sub-Commander Drex, who now worked as a coordinator for interspecies medical relief efforts. The message was simple. Admiral, our relief ships have successfully delivered medical supplies to the plague-affected worlds in the Outer Rim. Thank you for allowing us to help. It feels good to use our ships to save lives instead of taking them. Admiral Seo dictated a reply. Commander Drex, this is what strength is truly for. Congratulations on finding your people's real purpose. This was perhaps the most satisfying aspect of the post-war period. The Krethians had not just been neutralized as a threat. They had been transformed into a force for good in the galaxy. Their ships now carried medical supplies and food to worlds in need. Their warriors had become protectors of the weak, rather than predators. On Earth, Dr. Jin Wuhan was briefing the Human Council on the long-term effects of the Civilization Reset Protocol. The results were even better than they had hoped. Council members, he reported, the Krethian transformation appears to be permanent and complete. Their society has restructured itself around cooperation rather than conquest. Crime rates on Krethian worlds have dropped to historic lows. Their scientific advancement has accelerated now that they are focusing on creation rather than destruction. What about other species' reactions? Asked Council Leader Minjung Park, universally positive. Trade with former Krethian territory has increased by over 400%. Several species that had been hiding from Krethian expansion are now establishing their first galactic trade relationships in centuries. Any signs of other species attempting to fill the power vacuum left by Krethian military collapse? None. The demonstration of human capabilities appears to have convinced every potential aggressor that military expansion is no longer a viable strategy. This was exactly what humanity had hoped to achieve. Not just the end of one threat, but the discouragement of all future threats. Security Chief Haewon Lee was analyzing intelligence reports when she made a discovery that pleased her greatly. Several species that had been secretly developing weapons of mass destruction had suddenly changed their research priorities. Dr. Lim, she reported, we are seeing massive shifts in weapons research across the galaxy. At least 12 species have redirected their military programs toward defensive systems rather than offensive weapons. They learned the lesson, Dr. Kyung Lim replied with satisfaction. More than that, they are actively competing to be the most peaceful species in the galaxy. Everyone wants to be seen as non-threatening to humanity. This was an unexpected but welcome side effect. The galaxy had entered what historians would later call the Great Peace, a period when aggression itself became unfashionable because no one wanted to risk attracting human attention. Engineer Daeho. Kim was back to his normal work on Kepler 442b, turning rock into fertile soil under the alien sun. Mira Park and Taemin Lee worked alongside him, their equipment humming quietly as it performed its advertised function. To any outside observer, they looked exactly like what they claimed to be, simple engineers doing honest work. The quantum manipulation arrays were carefully hidden again. The weapons systems were dormant. The communication networks were silent. Do you ever miss the excitement? Mira asked as she calibrated a soil processor. What excitement? Daeho replied with a grin. We are just farmers. We have always been just farmers. Farmers who can bend space-time to their will, only when absolutely necessary. Most of the time, we prefer to bend soil composition to our will. Much more relaxing. Taemin laughed as he sealed an access panel that definitely did not contain reality-altering technology. I like it better this way. Saving the galaxy was satisfying, but growing food is more rewarding. This was the human way. Return to normal life as quickly as possible. Let others worry about glory and recognition. Focus on the simple, honest work of building a peaceful civilization. Young Officer Kim. Min-Soo was completing his first tour of duty aboard a human defense vessel when he asked his captain a question that had been bothering him. Captain, if we are so powerful, why do we work so hard to avoid using our power? Captain Sung-Ho Park looked at the young officer thoughtfully. Min-Soo, what is the difference between a strong person and a weak person? A strong person can defeat a weak person in a fight. That is the difference between someone who is physically stronger and someone who is physically weaker. I asked about strong and weak people. Min-Soo thought for a moment. I do not understand the distinction, sir. A strong person protects others and only fights when absolutely necessary. A weak person looks for excuses to fight and preys on those who cannot defend themselves.